pretty rare for a game to get as many things right as Deus Ex Mankind Divided did. Not only was it a superb story all about augmented super soldiers, it also had impressive first-person shooting, awesome hand-to-hand combat, truly excellent stealth mechanics, great music, great hacking. In fact, just about everything in it was great. This is Game of the Year material right here, people. It took place a few years after the events of Human Revolution, which if you haven't gotten around to playing, then no problem. There was a pretty decent 12-minute long recap video at the start to catch up on what was going on. The game was set in a world filled to the brim with a new breed of racism. Racism between those who had robotic augmentations and those who had not. Now here was the first real twist to the tale. It was in fact the augmented people who were the ones that were oppressed by the non-augmented, or the so-called naturals, despite the fact that orgs were typically stronger, better and faster than their pure human equivalents. They were blamed for a terrorist attack known as the Incident, and so were as a whole discriminated against, abused and segregated. There wasn't an image in Mankind Divided more powerful than seeing the return of two queues at a train station, one for the orgs and one for the naturals, a pretty stark reminder of the darker side of human history. But on a brighter note, there was of course the return of someone who's come to be one of my favourite video game characters, Adam Jensen.
Not gonna go all wonky on us now, Hansa, are ya?
Well, if I do, McCready, I guarantee you'll never see it coming.
Being the most heavily augmented guy on the planet, he was no stranger to discrimination. But despite this, he never once wavered from his intense, no-nonsense, get-the-job-done attitude. He was more powerful this time around, with a whole new set of augmentations to unlock. These new orgs were cleverly explained as being locked away deep inside his system, only to be revealed after a complete reboot, hence why they didn't make an appearance in the previous game in the series. It did at least try to have some continuity to it then, rather than say in Uncharted 4 where Drake had to use a rope every 5 minutes and yet never once needed it in Uncharted 1, 2 or 3. Next up, let's talk about the gameplay. Once again it kept switching between civilian sections and missions. This time the civilian parts took place in the city of Prague, the new home for Adam and for his employers, Task Force 29. It was here that more of the RPG elements of the game took place. Side missions, character interactions, police work. There's always someone needing some sort of help with one thing or another. Every job felt like something that you could imagine Adam would get involved in. There were tough decisions to make, often leading to future consequences. One thing that I did find weird was, you know how in most games, food is health? Well, in Deus Ex, it was all about the booze. For some reason, everyone seemed to be surrounded by alcohol. My only guess as to why is that, just like Bender from Futurama, orgs also need beer for fuel. Anyway, onto the globe-trotting part, the missions. These would take place in locations ranging from Dubai to the Swiss Alps. What really stood out about every location was the variety of options that they provided. Mainly I stuck to close combat and non-lethal tactics, which worked out pretty well for me, but of course, you could play in whatever style you wanted. The stealth was superb. It was always obvious if you were in plain sight or not, and you always felt in control, especially with org abilities to help you out. When you did end up making a mistake, it wouldn't take the enemy long to overrun you, and you'd have to resort to either fighting your way out or desperately try to flee. Don't worry about it though, here I won this fight, and without having to kill anyone. Let's just say they're taking a little nap. As well as stealth, I also focused on hacking so that I could access all of the terminals, and on the social scanner so that I could talk my way out of situations. Yeah, this mechanic did kinda suck, just count which one of these three symbols blipped the most and pick its corresponding answer. But other than that, every single thing felt fun. For example, even something as simple as moving a body was kept fast and easy, rather than being slow and realistic. Realism is obviously great, but only when it doesn't interfere with gameplay. Now after the Metal Gear series has all but fallen off a cliff, there's more room than ever for an intelligent, thought-provoking action title. In fact, there's a lot of comparisons to be made between these two series. Interesting bad guys, a combination of stealth and action, mankind at war, the dangers of putting too much faith in technology as we move into the future of the human race. All I know is, I look forward to whatever adventures Adam Jensen gets up to next. And for more video game reviews, be sure to check out A's Gaming Moments. See you next week.